All right, welcome to this terrific Tuesday edition of Liquid Lunch on Biz TV. I'm John Tobacco. It's not just a terrific Tuesday. Today, it's going to be a tirade Tuesday because I got a number of things I want to go on a tirade about. But to kick things off, getting today started, it's just a terrific day so far for the market. Dow holding its gains from yesterday, up just a few today. Couple of possible good little sprouts of news happening in the market, although all we get from the left-wing media is fear, fright, and hysteria. And a little bit, Stephen Moore, one of the chief architects of Trump's economic policy, along with Larry Kudlow, will be joining us, and we'll be talking about what's really happening in the economy, what's happening with jobs, and what we have to look forward to through the rest of 2020 and beyond. But I think it's all going to be good. You know, I try to bring up a lot of stuff that viewers send me. I try to talk about news that's important to our viewers and viewers on Biz TV across the country. A lot of our Facebook audience is right here in the New York, New Jersey area, so welcome to everyone. But you know, there's this meme floating around out there about this guy, Martin Gugino. You remember Martin? Just a month or so back, he was one of these guys protesting up in Buffalo, and for no reason, he started scuffling with the cops. Some people said he was trying to jam their radios. The cop wound up pushing him. The guy fell. Oh my God, blood was pouring out of his ear within seconds. It was, you know, highly analyzed. Everybody's saying, why the cops got to beat up a 75-year-old man? Now there's a story going around the social media sphere saying that little old man Martin Gugino is actually a professional protester. And the meme going around the internet is that he's been arrested 300 times. Not true. But here is the truth. In today's USA Today, who is Martin Gugino? And friends of the protester have said Gugino is a longtime activist, although a gentle person with a thirst for justice. No, he has not been arrested 300 times, but this supposedly poor old man minding his own business who was thrown on the ground by cops, he has a personal blog in which he discusses his activism and lists his arrest record. So this poor old fragile man has been arrested on 4 other occasions. Not one, not just the one in Buffalo, 4 other times he's gone out of his way to get arrested, to encounter police, to supposedly stand up. If you're protesting and you get in a scuffle with the cops, you maybe should have an expectation that you might wind up with a lump on your head. I don't know. Just a thought from me, but just to debunk some of the myths out there, no, Martin Gugino has not been arrested 300 times. But Martin Gugino has been arrested 5 different times for protesting and getting into it with the cops. So, you know, don't believe everything you read. And if you want some fact checking, you know where to go. Just come to good old JT. I'm going to update you on the news of the day. Lots going on with the market. A lot of people are asking me why I keep talking about being short and what stocks I'm short. Why do I think they still should be short? I'm going to get into that and more. We're going to talk about the economy. We're going to talk about your health with Dr. Dennis Durrell a little later on. And Pavlina Oster is going to end hour 1 with us. And if God had a podcast, she'd be the host. Stay right there. Back after this. Welcome back. It is a terrific Tuesday on Liquid Lunch. I'm John Tobacco, coming to you live as we do every single day, noon to 2 Eastern, from the Corona Bunker Studios right now in my house in New York City. We're hoping to get back to the good old studio down on Broadway in Manhattan sometime soon, but I'm enjoying it here, and I hope you're enjoying every day, getting updated on what's happening in news, markets, and politics. And, you know, we serve it up every day with our own special little twist. Last week, I got into an in-depth discussion with you about the continued questions about why governors like Andrew Cuomo and others sent people with COVID back to the nursing homes. I did some statistical calculations on how many of those people that died in New York and what their value of their statistical life was, or the cost of their statistical life was, to the state of New York. And New York and others have some major pension liabilities. And I had posited to you that Andrew Cuomo could have potentially plugged a hole between New York State's contribution to Medicaid and the liability the government had to a number of those folks who died in the nursing homes, may have plugged a hole of somewhere between $5 and $6 billion by allowing some folks to get transported back to a nursing home. It doesn't make sense when they're the most endangered people, why you would send them to a facility that's full of other endangered people. Lots going on in the markets. Big run up yesterday. I can't explain it, as I've been telling you for the last couple of months now. Since March, I personally have a bias to find overvalued situations. And I have been not suggesting you do this, but I'm just telling you what I do, and that's what I like to do here. I have been shorting a number of stocks which I think are completely overvalued, and their forward prospects are grim, including a whole bunch of them. I'm going to get into them a little later in the show, but Simon Property Group, big mall owner, AMC Theaters, one of the biggest theater chains in the country, and Brookfield Asset Management, high-rise commercial stuff, and malls here in the U.S. and Canada. I think Gap Stores was on the brink of bankruptcy before this whole COVID thing happened, so I don't know with the reduced capacity how they could possibly be improving, but we'll take a look deeper at that a little later on. And also Macy's. Macy's, famous old name, you like to think it's going to hang around forever on a nostalgia thing, but to me it looks like it's going the way of JCPenney's and Toys R Us, and you may hear some noise in the background there. My house hasn't been cleaned in a couple of months, so my dear friend Rosa is here trying to get the place in shape so it's nice and spick and span. Looking over at the Bitcoin side of things, I'm having a lot of conversations with a lot of people on what the real forward value is. I think the U.S. has made some great strides in outlining some rules for cryptocurrencies. They're now allowing security tokens where you can digitize and commoditize basically a business opportunity. And I would warn you that in the craze of 2016 and 17, a lot of these little altcoins, as they came out. Stay away from all of them. If there was a way I could short them all, I'd be short them all, believe me. And to me, the only one with real value, the one getting any institutional traction around the world, is Bitcoin. And as far as I'm concerned, if you're into growth and you're building a portfolio to retire on in 20 years, you should start educating yourself on cryptocurrency, and you should take a real close look on if you should have even a sliver of Bitcoin in your portfolio. I think there are tremendous growth opportunities. We just passed a major milestone in Bitcoin's short life, in that we went through this halving event where people are paid, supercomputers are paid to run the network. It's a decentralized network, and supercomputers are paid to verify transactions, basically solve these big, huge math problems, and they get a sliver of Bitcoin each time they put together a whole bunch of these into a block, and that's why they call it the blockchain, because they take thousands of transactions into one, slam them together, and then they all get verified, and people get a bounty, a little piece, a Satoshi they call it, and they cut that fee in half. Now that might sound like, oh my God, they cut the fee on Bitcoin, it's going to zero. No, it's actually a quite cleverly poised instrument where in cutting the bounty, they are actually slowing the rate of dilution to the other Bitcoins that are out there. So instead of X amount being created every day to continue verifying transactions, half of X. is coming out every day, and that means that the supply of Bitcoin is no longer expanding as fast as it was just a month ago. So, you might, for those of you who are traditional stock buyers, you might think almost like a buyback, and when they start taking stock out of the market, and that's usually a good sign because there's less supply, and if you continue to have more demand, things start to be looking up. And early last week I had told you that Venmo, digital cash favorite Venmo, and Cash App are now considering getting into the cryptocurrency game even deeper. I think on the Cash App you could actually exchange cash USD for cryptocurrency, and it looks like Venmo is going to be following suit. I believe we have with us right now Stephen Moore, one of the chief architects of Donald Trump's economic policy, former Trump economic advisor. And Mr. Moore, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, John. Thanks for having me.
It's always a pleasure, my friend. And, I was just talking to my audience before you came on, and we've talked about it before. My background is in short selling, so I've been short as I'm rooting for the macros. I feel like there are individual names that it's like shooting fish in a barrel, big mall owners, high-rise commercial property owners, movie theater owners. And this whole COVID thing has really thrown your work and your job into chaos now. What do we look like? From a guy who put this economy together, what do we look like going forward coming out of this?
Well, that's a great question. First of all, thank you for the comments. I mean, we really feel like we had the best economy in 30 years going into, the early months of 2020. Lowest unemployment rate, booming wages, increased GDP at a very nice 3 to 3.5% pace. And then boom, we just get hit by this virus, and it's disrupted everything. So much so, John, that the forecasts now are for this is the last day of the second quarter, June 30th. And it looks like we're going to be down, I'm going to say 30 to 35%. As far as I know, I don't think that's ever happened before, maybe in the very first few months of the Great Depression. So that is a huge amount of ground to be made up, especially when you now have 30 million people unemployed. We're moving ahead a little faster in terms of the schedule of reopenings. And now, of course, that's a little bit in jeopardy with some of these states reversing course. So it's a very tough time to predict the future when you've got at least a dozen states and perhaps as many as 15 to 20 now talking about getting stricter in terms of reopenings.
So we're joined by former Trump economic advisor and one of the architects of the Trump plan, Stephen Moore. Mr. Moore, I know we had a couple minutes there of technical difficulty. Can you hang out with us for one more segment?
Yeah, sure.
Because I want to talk about
please.
Okay, good. So in our final minute here, and we'll take a quick break, come back with more with Stephen Moore. These presidential campaigns are now, starting to take shape. And just, what do you see a Joe Biden economy looking like?
Well, I think it's a frightful proposition. I mean, if Joe Biden is elected president in November, it'll be because the economy is hobbled. And then you would have a president coming in with a very weak economy who's talking about raising taxes, increasing regulation. And by the way, not raising taxes as they've been raised before, but massive increases. You probably get an increase in energy taxes. You probably see an increase in income tax rates as high as 50 to 60%. You might see a wealth tax. Biden has come out in favor of expanding the payroll tax on much more income. So that will have a significantly negative effect. And by the way, he also wants to reverse the Trump corporate tax cuts, the business tax cuts, which caused so much capital flow in the United States. Right. Then he wants, a Green New Deal. He wants to decapitate our oil and gas industry, which creates 6, 7, 8 million jobs in this country. I think it would be very negative. I think you're potentially looking at a second Great Depression if you put fuel on that fire and then light the match.
Yeah, well, it looks like Joe Biden needs to light a match to get out of his basement at this point. But well, we're going to take
a smart strategy for him is to just simply stay home. Stay out of the public view.
Yep.
But that can't last. I mean, Biden is going to have to, show himself in public and prove that he can put 2 or 3 sentences together. And look, I'm not trying to make fun of him. I mean, old age is a hard thing to deal with.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back, quick commercial, come back with more Stephen Moore right after this.
5, 4, 3, 2.
For more Liquid Lunch, head over to YouTube, do a search for Liquid Lunch TV, and hit that subscribe button.
All right, it's a terrific Tuesday here on Liquid Lunch on Biz TV, and we are just breezing through hour one, talking about the economy and what's happening with your money and what we have to look forward to in the future should something calamitous happen like Joe Biden win. But joining us again, doing double duty, Stephen Moore is economist and former Trump economic advisor. Mr. Moore, I was pretty critical. I helped out some local community banks on the PPP. My math was there were like 27 million companies in the country, small businesses that were eligible. And I think like 2 million actually were able to access the PPP on the corporate side. So I feel like, as much as the government was saying, give out this money quick, because I was on calls with Treasury and the FDIC and the SBA, and they're telling them, give out the money quick. And at the same time, the bankers on the phone are saying, hey, if we don't do our proper due diligence, do we have a safe harbor? Are we protected? Are you going to come back 6 months from now and tell us we shouldn't have gave this loan? And the government was really unclear on it. And I think a lot of small businesses didn't get access to it because of the government's lack of organization on giving it out. It seemed like the money was there and the will was there, but they just couldn't figure out the right way to get it to the masses.
Well put, and this is one of the reasons why we're looking at record numbers of business bankruptcies right now. It's one of the reasons. There are a lot of reasons. Obviously, if you don't have customers and you don't have people coming into your stores, it's hard for the government to continue to prop up those businesses month after month. It's the reason we've got to get the economy reopened as quickly as possible so we get commerce flowing again. But you're so right. I mean, what happened was that a lot of as with anything in Washington, you create a program like this, and the first in line are all the people who know how Washington works, and they know how to cut the corners, and they know they have the lobbyists, and they got the money first. And then these small businesses on Main Street, so many of them were put last in line, and by the time they were eligible for the money, they were already out of business. I mean, small businesses can't go 4, 6, 8 weeks without revenues. I know the politicians don't understand that because they've never run businesses.
Right, and Bill de Blasio made a comment about a month back that, our small businesses are tough. They could handle another couple of months. And the politicians and lobbyists never had to hope for the door to open and the cash register to ring. So they don't understand. These companies were already dead for 2 months before the PPP came out. So even when they got it, they were kind of paying back money. And let me ask you this, because you're so...
By the way, let me just add one thing to that, John, that you just said. One tragedy is that there was a report in the Wall Street Journal, I think it was last week, 40% of Black-owned businesses, 40% of them are in financial distress right now or in the process of bankruptcy. So it's not just, a random sample of businesses. It's minority-owned businesses that are the ones that are really getting creamed from this lockdown. I mean, there's no question the lockdown has hit minorities and people at the bottom of the income ladder much more than people at the top. And, the politicians and the journalists and the college professors, they didn't lose their jobs. So they don't feel the pain of this. It's really been the suffering has really gone on at the bottom of the income scale. And that's why this has become such a scandal.
Yeah, and to me, I like to swirl up a good conspiracy every so often because it's good for ratings. But, it sure seems to me that by all accounts, and I'm friends with John McLaughlin, who was one of the only pollsters that had it right last time, that Trump was making amazing gains in the African-American community with both jobs, with new business starts for small minority-owned business, and home ownership. And it sure seems like me that this is part of a bigger plan to keep us continued lockdown is to get those businesses, disabled and those homes foreclosed on and kill some of the great favor I think Trump was winning with the minority community.
Well, I don't know if it's intentional or not, but the fact is, if you look at, for example, the bill that passed the House a few weeks ago, that would provide 6 more months of unemployment benefits that pay workers more money for staying off the job than going back on the job. We are now in a process slowly where we're getting businesses up and running again, the ones that survived. They need workers, right? And this is so amazing. We have 35 million people unemployed in this country, but we don't have workers going back on the job because they can make more staying unemployed. I do not believe you can get an economic recovery if you continue to expand these high unemployment benefits. I'm not saying the unemployment benefits should go away. I'm saying it's very unfair to the people who are working that their next door neighbor who's sitting on the couch watching TV is making more money than they are.
Yeah, and I have some guys who own small businesses, contracting companies, and they're reaching out to their employees and saying, hey, come on back, we can get going again. And they're like, no, man, I'm taking the summer off. I'm making more money staying home and going to the beach. Why the hell do I want to come dig a hole, But isn't this all part of, potentially the road we're going down with Joe Biden by just, saying we're going to extend benefits even further? My father always used to say to me, like, you don't respect something if you don't work for it and you don't earn it and if you don't pay for it yourself. And I think it's just a deterioration of society that the left wants to pay people to stay home and create a laziness where they just become accustomed to the government paying them. That's what we're looking for. That's what we're looking at if Joe Biden and this agenda gets in, right?
Yeah, I mean, we have created an entitlement, a kind of culture in this country where everybody's getting free checks. You get checked for this and you get checked for that, and it's not related to how much you work. And by the way, the heroes of the economy today are the people who are working out there, John. The people are going to work, and I'm surprised. When I'm working at home now for the last few months, but I'm always surprised how many people I find who are immigrants. The immigrants are the ones who are working. They're keeping our economy up. Whether it's doing the garbage collection or doing the deliveries, and so those are the people who need to be rewarded. The people are working hard, getting up, and have worked, frankly, throughout this crisis, while so many other people. And I have the same experience. I know a lot of people like this is the greatest 3-month vacation I've ever had. I haven't had to work. I've been able to sleep till 9 o'clock in the morning and then watch TV, and it's just not. You can't have a functioning economy if you don't have people out working in businesses with customers that are making profits. And all we keep doing is sending trillions and trillions of dollars of checks out as if that's going to remedy our problem. The only people who are going to benefit from this are the Chinese. They're going to take over the world economy if we continue to be hobbled.
Yeah, a lot of people, and I've been a Wall Street guy and a student of your philosophies and Larry Kudlow's for many years, and people ask me, well, where do we get all these trillions? And I'm still kind of stuck at explaining to regular laymen how this, imaginary printing press keeps coming up with trillions of dollars. At some point, we're going to have a bubble that somebody's going to have to address.
That's going to be our kids and our grandkids, and it's going to, we're talking about, my latest estimate, John, $5 trillion of borrowing this year. $5 trillion in 1 year, in 12 months, $5 trillion. I mean, that's a very, very scary proposition. And yet, the Pelosi bill wants to spend another $3 trillion that we don't have. And even the Republicans, by the way, they want to spend more. Now, what I favor is a payroll tax suspension for the rest of the year. Let's reward people for working and stop rewarding people for not working.
Yeah. Well, listen, thank God you're still part of the Brain Trust, because we need it bad, and we need you anytime you want to come on. Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Moore. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, John. Have a great week and happy 4th of July.
Same to you, my friend. That's Stephen Moore, former Trump economic advisor, one of the best guys around if you want to know what's happening with our economy, because he laid down the tracks and drew up the diagrams for this architectural economy. Quick break. Back.
Welcome back, folks.
I've been taking my makeup off every day with the coronavirus wipes.
How's it working?
I'm still corona free.
Didn't even wipe your fake tan off.
Well, that's because that's not a fake tan. That's a real tan.
this November. And Democrats don't want to see it, at least establishment ones. It seems like they're trying to sort of
against weed, but all guns, right? There's all these different, and to me the palette is the middle, there's different shades of purple, and that's who's going to decide this election, right?
Wine's kicking in.
There you go.
It's just gonna work out after this.
30 seconds.
Right?
Your cue is you look for my 2 minutes. When I say 2 minutes left in the segment, you're filming the next guy up.
Welcome back. I've been talking for the last week or so about all of the things we've said goodbye to. We're mourning Aunt Jemima, many members of our food family, Uncle Ben. Eskimo Pie is gone, the Land O'Lakes lady on the butter. The list goes on and on. I'm protecting the Lucky Charms guy, but anything could happen. Christopher Columbus is coming down. Teddy Roosevelt is, for some reason, his statues are coming down. And another one bites the dust, as I mentioned, Gone with the Wind is gone with the wind. And another casualty this year is the preseason NFL Hall of Fame game, which has been canceled. And with apparently spikes of cases all around the country, I'm asking the question, will there be an NFL? And joining us right now to break that down, one of my favorites, Dr. Dennis Durrell is here. And Doc, thanks for joining us again. I really appreciate it. And before we tap into your vast wealth of wisdom, I want to remind our audience that Dr. Durrell is a award-winning author, and his book, Your Healthcare Playbook, Winning the Game of Modern Medicine, is out there, and you got to go check it out. But so, Doc, Hall of Fame game is gone, but apparently the show must go on, and NFL will play. What are the 5 things we got to watch out for in going to an NFL game?
Well, I think, first of all, when I wrote my book with the NFL, I met Roger Goodell. They were really good about facilitating me getting interviews with a lot of people, doctors in the NFL, players in the NFL, executives in the NFL. And when I interviewed Rich McKay, the president of the Falcons, it was fascinating. He said, when we move lunch from 12:15 to 12:30, everyone in our organization gets an email. So the point of that is that unlike healthcare, the NFL is highly detail regulated, oriented, regimented. And the new CMO, the chief medical officer, is a neurosurgeon from Vanderbilt. I'm here in Nashville. So he's a very competent guy, and they all feel from the executives to the doctors that they're going to have a testing regimen, a rigid protocol, and they're going to adhere to all of the public health edicts in all the different states, and that they're going to be able to have football. But we are going to have some changes. I think that fans will still be in the stadium. They're not going to be close to the field, so they'll be, at least 6 rows back, and I think there'll be reduced capacity. So maybe at 50%, maybe at 60% with spacing in between. And then you'll have fans that have season tickets. They'll have to rotate which games they can go to. They won't be able to go to every game. And certainly they're going to do away with some of the preseason games, which they should anyway.
Yeah, I think the Players Association has been battling for years for less preseason games because they don't want the wear and tear on their players. So COVID may have actually helped the NFLPA on that one. And, it helped a couple other things too, Doc. I was talking to my kids. My 2 daughters, Victoria and Ava, one's a senior in college, one just graduated high school. My son's a freshman in high school. And I said, kids, do you guys enjoy staying home and doing school from home and everything? And unanimously, all 3 kids said, Daddy, I want to go back to school. So we may have remedied another age-old problem through COVID. Kids want to go to school now. It's crazy, but they're so slap happy they don't even want to be locked in the house anymore. They'd rather go to actually school. And another thing, my son, 14, I don't know how how old your kids are, but their kids are of very few actual spoken words these days. They can text you for an hour, but I said, because I'm really for in-person learning, and I feel like, we should figure out how to do it and get the teachers in front of the kids, keep them engaged. So I've been trying to fight for, along with parents against distance learning here in New York, right? And I said to my son, I'm ranting and raving every day about this, going back to school because you told me you want to go back to school. But are you doing better or worse? He said, Dad, go on TV and tell them I'm getting dumber. And that's like, coming from a kid, like he's saying, hey, we don't have any attention span. We can have they give us a workload for the day. We can Google everything and we can text each other. And as long as we change the words around, we're not cheating. It's like, kids are recognizing that this is good for them.
Yes. Well, one of the reasons I wrote a book about the NFL and healthcare was that teams are the future of healthcare. And if you don't know how to work on a team, you're not going to succeed in healthcare today. And I would say that's pretty true in business. And so you can't learn as a team from a distance. There's something about being there and grouping up into smaller groups and then attacking a problem and working on projects. That's very hard to do virtually. So, I think we'll have most places, not all in the U.S., will probably have school in the fall in person.
Well, let's hope on that. My dad was the president of our local Little League. He was also the president of our local Pee Wee Football League. And he always used to say to me, before he passed, he used to say, John, youth sports is the best thing you could do for kids. Even if they don't want to get there, get them there. Being part of a team teaches them so much in life. And he always used to say, you could build a lot of character through team sports in kids because they know what they can rely on. They know what someone else is relying on them for. There's a lot of different socioeconomic things. And I think even the fact that here in New York they're allowing kids to play sports again is probably a really good sign mentally and physically for these kids, right?
I think it's so important. I'll give you an example. Some doctors did not play team sports, and I don't think it has to be a sport. It could be being in the band. It could be in a club, whatever. But I think here's my point. I was talking to we have doctors in 19 states, 2,000 doctors. I was meeting with some of my doctors the other day, and one of the doctors said, no, I don't rely on my partners for anything. I said, well, that's a problem. I said, that's a team. You do rely on each other. And so some of the foundational principles of a team, doctors that haven't been on teams don't understand, and it seems foreign, but you've got to explain that to them. And team concepts should be embedded in what we learn from a young age, and they will benefit everyone throughout life.
So if you want to win the game of modern medicine, you got to go out and get Dr. Durrell's book, your healthcare playbook, Winning the Game of Modern Medicine. He wrote it with the NFL. Any things we need to know about as football fans in our final minute here? What are you hearing from your contacts at the NFL, the protocols and special guidelines that fans are going to have to know about?
Yeah, I think that fans will, they're probably going to have to wear masks. And you could imagine the NFL would, again, I don't have a source that have said anything about this, but you could imagine them handing out, like they do, the whiteout jerseys and everything. So they'll probably hand out masks, and I think we're going to have to wear masks. I think we're going to have to space. But I think we will have fans, and I think we will have the NFL. I think also, when I was writing my book, I got to look at the 49ers stadium before it was open, and you can order food from your seat via wireless. So I think they may do some things to reduce lines and spacing for food and for restrooms as well.
Tremendous. Thank you very much. It's going to be difficult to have a hot dog and a beer with the mask on, but I guess we'll figure that out next. But all right, Doc, we got to leave it there. Thank you so much. Please join us again soon. Dr. Dennis Durrell, author of your healthcare playbook, Winning the Game of Modern Medicine. Thanks, Doc. Appreciate it. All right, we're going to take a quick break right here. I'm going to slug down the rest of this White Claw. We're going to come back with more Liquid Lunch for you right after this.
Most financially successful people own assets that make them money while they sleep. They usually own real estate, vehicles, intellectual property, equipment, and more. These assets make passive income through leases, subscriptions, royalties, and fees that don't require time, energy, or attention. Your assets do the work, and you collect the check. So what kind of asset should you buy? The most valuable companies in the world, like Amazon, Google, and Apple, all have the same thing in common. They make a majority of their revenue from data technology assets, storing, collecting, processing, and providing data. It's all about the data. What if you could own data tech assets with a low upfront cost? Introducing Apex, a proprietary technology built to process and mine data and render artificial intelligence and 3D gaming at exceptionally high rates. Apex Tech has partnered with SafeTech, a subsidiary of a publicly traded company called InvestView. SafeTech's business model leverages Apex technology to disrupt the multi-trillion-dollar data tech industry, giving you the competitive advantage. SafeTech's growth strategy is to capture a significant share of the market. SafeTech will enter into a 60-month lease with owners of Apex Systems. Why would they do that? Why not just buy all the equipment themselves? The same reason most companies lease instead of own, to scale quickly without the upfront costs and for the tax benefits. So how do you get started? You purchase an Apex system. Then you can lease it to SafeTech for 60 months at a rate of $500 per month. That's a total of $30,000 paid to you over the life of the lease. So what's your responsibility besides purchasing the Apex system? Nothing. During the lease, SafeTech is responsible for any maintenance costs to keep things running for you. Just collect a check every month for the next 60 months. This tremendous financial opportunity positions you to follow the strategies of the financially successful. You can leverage data technology to produce passive income that generates revenue without your time, energy, or effort. This is what is meant by creating multiple streams of income. But the opportunity to participate will not last forever. If this concept fits your financial goals, take action today while you still have the chance.
All right, welcome back. Just breezing through this first hour here, and when you got to close out an hour, you got to bring in a closer. Somebody who could put an explanation point on the show. We have a lot of different types of guests on this show. And, you know, I sometimes just get so sick and tired of the political drivel all the time. This, that, Black Lives Matter, Blue Lives Matter, Trump, Biden, that I like to dig into what the younger people are thinking, the millennials, Gen Zs, Gen Xs, Gen Zens, whatever they call them now. And my favorite, who comes on all the time and sets me straight and lets me understand things from a younger person's perspective, is Pavlina Osta, who joins us right now. If you had a kid, you would want her to be your kid. And if God had a podcast, she'd be the host of it, because she's a producer for Salem Media and also the host of If God Had a Podcast. Hi, Pavi. How are you?
I'm good, John. Thank you for having me on.
Oh, well, it's always a pleasure. Thank you for joining us. I know how big and important you are now, and you only come over and care about me when there's a nail salon in my basement, but thank you for joining.
Oh, my goodness. I never know what you're up to. You are always doing your own thing. You have to let me know. We have to get, like, the crew together, and we can all hang out. It's fun.
No, we're going to do that. I'm kidding with you. You're the best. So, the first thing I want to ask you about is Princeton University. They're dropping the Wilson School name. What do young people think about this? Does this really matter?
Well, to them at Princeton University, it does matter. I think, you know, I've been really looking at everything that's going on with the Black Lives Matter movement and them taking down the statues and all of this stuff. And it's fascinating to look at, because I think of our history as what has made us where we are today. You know what I mean? Like, we don't have equal rights because of what has happened in history. We don't have, you know, there's racism, there's all of these issues that we currently have today because of our history. So erasing it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. You know, if anything, why not just put up more statues or rename, you know, maybe you can rename some buildings, add some buildings with some, you know, either Black Lives Matter, you know, wonderful people that have done things for that. Like, that'd be great. You know, the Rosa Parks building, the Martin Luther, whatever you want, you know. I just don't see where taking down certain names, taking down certain statues is really going to be doing a whole lot for our current problems. But as far as how much they care about it, I think it means enough for them to, you know, send out petitions and doing things like that to get rid of the names. But in the grand scheme of things, I don't see how it's going to make a huge difference.
So I want to do a little quiz with you for a minute.
Oh, absolutely.
Have you ever heard of Yale University?
I have, yes.
Do you know anyone that's ever gone to Yale University?
Oh gosh, no,
Okay.
I
Well,
don't.
most people that have gone to Yale, you know, like the Cuomo brothers, they're
Oh, right,
quite,
yes.
they think they're quite entitled people because they went to Yale,
Any,
prestigious Yale.
any Ivy League person usually thinks that, yes.
Yeah, exactly. Did you know that Yale does not give out grades? The whole college is pass-fail.
Oh, no, I did not know that.
Yeah, I know. It's a dirty little
Found it
secret,
useful.
isn't it? You're not so smart after all if you go through
Yeah.
college on a pass-fail, right? But I guess
Yeah,
it's
for
very
real.
egalitarian. You're either one
Right.
or none, right? Did you know that Yale was named after a man by the name of Elihu Yale? Did you ever hear
Yes,
that?
I did know that.
You did know that. Did you
Yes.
know he was, you know, quite the slave owner?
I found that out recently, yes.
Right. So tell me, why is Princeton digging into the Woodrow Wilson School of Business? And Yale University, this bastion of left-wing liberal, all the liberals' kids go to Yale.
Yep.
The guy was a slave owner. Why aren't they screaming and yelling to change the name of Yale? Can you
Actually, they
ask-
do want to change the name of Yale. That has been brought up. I have seen different stories about that. Is that actually going to happen? I don't think so. but
That's what I'm saying. It should
has
be a
been-
first. You would think this is actually a slave owner. All right,
You
I don't
would.
know. I'm getting aggravated about the whole Yale thing. The more work I do, because these people for years have been loaded up with hubris, and they think that they're better than everyone else because they went to Yale. And then I find out it was founded by a slave owner, and the whole thing is pass-fail. I mean, you know.
The pass-fail thing kind of gets me. I really, I should have looked into Yale or something. Jeez, but that is a very interesting point because I have seen where they do want to change the name of Yale. And around the same time that story came out, Nancy Pelosi was taking down portraits of like former House speakers, I think. And
Right.
it made news that she was taking down the portraits because they were on the Confederate side. But what didn't make news is that they were all Democrats. So I was just like, why did no one talk about that? You know
No
what I
doubt
mean? I
about
thought
it.
it was just so interesting how like certain things are always left out. But
So you're
no,
you're
New
not
York is an
just you're not just a local New Yorker. You're not just a host of Salem Media, a producer at Salem Media. You're also a Guinness Book of World Record holders, and she's quite worldly. Seems like the global infection rate has now passed 10 million.
Yeah.
What does that mean? Is this thing going to slow down?
Oh my gosh. Well, I think places like Texas, Arizona, and Florida are feeling that kind of second wave. Do you remember in the beginning where they were like, oh, it doesn't live in hot climates or something? These are like the 3 hottest states I can think of. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So this is fascinating. But basically over 500,000 people around the world have died from COVID-19. And then, 10 million people have been infected globally. This thing spreads. This thing is all over the place. We're all sort of in the New York City area, and I was talking to my mom earlier, and I was like, I think there's no way we haven't all gotten it in some form or the other. But as far as it slowing down, I really hope it slows down. I think we were always expecting this sort of second wave or something coming along, but certain states like Arizona, Florida, and I think parts of Texas, they didn't shut down like New York did. Like I was so focused on everything that was happening here. We were on complete shutdown. Arizona just, put an act for 30 days, shutting down gyms, movie theater. I was like, have you guys not already been doing that? Like,
No, they weren't. That's the thing.
I just found out about that. I was like, wow, you guys have been going to movies since March. How nice. That must be so good for you. But they're just now doing that. And I think we're going to kind of see that, in the beginning, it was like New York, California, certain states were having these surges and they had to shut down right away. But then there were other states that weren't shutting down. Now it's just sort of the opposites happening.
Yep.
And hopefully those people don't come to New York and we have the same issue all over again. But as far as it slowing down, I'm just hoping we can get that like herd immunity. That's what I keep hearing about, and I want that to
That would be nice. And thankfully, the one thing we didn't lose here at Liquid Lunch is Pavlina Osta as one of our regular guests. Thank you so much for joining us today, dear. And hopefully
Thank you.
I'll
I'm in
see you
studio,
and the crew
so-
soon.
Yes, definitely.
All right, we're going to take a quick break right here. We're going to come back top of the hour with some news of the day for you. The news with the booze right after this. Alrighty then, welcome back. You're watching Liquid Lunch on Biz TV. I'm John Tobacco, just kicking off hour 2 here. And, I like to talk about the markets and just give you a brief update, what I think's happening out there. And I talked about it a little earlier in hour 1 before we got to Stephen Moore, former Trump economic advisor. And, I want to take a little time. I continue to think that this market is in some serious trouble. And I want to spend 5 minutes here to talk to you about why I've taken certain steps in this time. And I've mentioned it many times before, but I like to sell short. So rather than buy a stock and hope it goes up, I find stocks that I think are really crappy and the price is too high and I think they're going to go down. Okay? So since March, when all this, I started to identify sectors where I thought there was going to be major problems in the long term for them. And I started to pick out individual stocks that had great exposure to that and sell short, which means you make money when they go down. And again, I'm not trying to tell you to do this, but you might want to learn a little more about it because it's a lot easier finding the ugly ones than the beauties. You know what I mean? There's only one glass slipper for all intents and purposes. But let's take a look, okay? Starting back in March when all this crap started hitting, I thought malls were going to have problems. I thought high-rise building owners were going to have problems. I thought brick-and-mortar retail was going to have problems. And I thought movie theaters were going to have a major problem. And all of that has been happening. So let's just take a look back. And I drew some lines where I started selling short these stocks and where they are today. So let's just do a little recap. First, Brookfield Asset Management, one of the tremendous real estate companies here, commercial real estate, high-rise. They own the Oculus and Freedom Tower and all this other stuff. In March, the shorting started at approximately $45, and you see that white line. Today it's 34. So it needs to come back 33% from here, which is a huge gain, just to get back to where it was pre-COVID. Next, Gap stores, GPS is the symbol. Gap was on the brink of bankruptcy a couple of times before COVID even came around. You see my chart, you see my line where I initiated a position at 16. Just before the show today, the stock was at 12.5. Again, needs another 3.5 points up, about 40% to the upside just to get back to even. Not good news. Alongside a Gap, Macy's, big brick and mortar retailer, not great at online stuff. And Macy's is on the brink, big lease obligations. And back in March, Macy's was, $16. Today it's $8. Today it's, $6.5. Need 150% upside from here just to get back to even. So bad news there. AMC, the movie theater chain. AMC, the movie chain. This stock short from 8. Today 4.25. Just about 100% move to the upside is needed just to get back to even where they were pre-COVID, so stay away from that one. And finally, Simon Property Group, one of the largest publicly owned operators of malls, indoor malls. And this is a whopper, man. I mean, you see back in March, the beginning of March, Simon Property Group was $125, and today it's 70. So another 55 points or 80% gain is what it needs just to get back to even. So you might want to take a little closer look at shorting stocks. If you want to learn a little more, you can always message me anytime you want at JT, Liquid Lunch TV. Take a quick break. Come back after this with Black by Popular Demand, Tisha Powell and Lisa Durden. Mix it up right after this.
5, 4, 3, 2.
The arugula pot.
All right, welcome back. Did a little markets there, talked to Pavlina about what's going on the college campuses, and we turn our attention now to something that I've been trying not to talk about that much because it's getting plenty of publicity from the left-wing media, but the angry mob, the Antifa, the George Soros, the Open Societies, the Black Lives Matter, they are continuously engaging in ridiculous and outrageous, violent behavior across the whole country. And if you look at the pockets of where it's happening, they're usually blue governors and blue mayors. So the states and the cities they're choosing are these very progressive left-wing guys. And, we're supposed to mix it up today with Lisa Durden and Tisha Powell. Tisha joins us right now. Hopefully, Lisa's going to connect momentarily. Hello, Tisha. How are you?
Good. I can see Lisa from here as well. She's on.
Oh, Tisha said Lisa's on. So, hey, Tisha, how you doing?
Good, John. Thanks for having me.
Fantastic having you. I was just talking a little bit, as you heard, these violent protests continue across the whole nation. And usually when there's these outrage and outbursts and protests and everything, there are demands. And Lisa Durden joins us right now along with Tisha Powell. Lisa Durden's a political analyst and social commentator, also a social justice advocate, Black Lives Matter supporter. And Tisha, as you know, is a nationally recognized legal analyst, author of Trump Must Win, Discover the Dark Days Americans Will Face If Trump Isn't Re-Elected. Ladies, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. I'm hoping, as we often do in these segments, we can have thoughtful conversation and at least part friends at the end. But Tisha, I'm going to go to you first. I'm wondering why the violent protests continue. There's good people out there expressing their First Amendment rights. They're trying to get a point across, and I think they're making progress. Why does the violence continue?
That should not be part of a protest because we're just destroying property. We're destroying people's life, and we're all going to have to pay for it, John. At some point, we are going to have to pay to restore the buildings that are being done. I don't see this concept of a riot. I mean, it's just, this is ridiculous. We've got to stop the riots. Protesting is fine. That is a free speech. Rioting is not free speech. Looting is not free speech. And we really need to stop this. It's actually looking bad on Black people because they're pretending like people are not saying Black people are violent. We don't need to be part of a riot. We just need to protest and get our points out. But rioting and looting, it's got to stop.
All right, Lisa, let me bring you in here. I was watching some video this morning of Minnesota. And someone was like walking around the streets, and it really looked like a war zone. I mean, I understand the original outburst, people went crazy, but do you see an end in sight here on the violence and the looting stuff, or does this have to continue in your view?
Well, let me correct Tisha. First of all, 80% of the individuals actually marching now are white people, so you need to read your statistics. So 80% of individuals marching.
White people.
No, hold on. Tisha, I didn't cut you off, Tisha. I didn't cut you off. Calm down. Let me finish. So 80% of the people who are out there protesting are white people. Shockingly, and we accept that. Number two, no, Tisha, don't play that game, girl. We're not going to do that today. Let me finish my entire point. So the next thing is the FBI did an investigation. You know what? We're not going to do this. I sat here patiently and didn't cut Tisha off. Tisha, girl, are you about to cut me off on this?
No, she's not. Let's finish the point, Lisa. We're trying to have a good conversation.
Are you insecure? Your point will be made. Now you done took me off topic. Can I make my point?
All right, let's finish the point. We want to do a number of topics here. So
cutting me off. That's a problem.
Okay, we want to do a number of topics here. So why don't you finish your point?
Let me reset and answer the question.
Okay, please reset.
Tisha, calm down. Now, calm down, girl. Now, 80% of the fact is 80% of the protesters are white people. The groundswell of the violence with white supremacy, white racist police officers beating Black people, choking Black people, killing Black people has made not just Black people angry, it made the world angry. So that's the first thing. The FBI also did an investigation and found that the provocateurs who are burning down Target were white, who were torching police cars were white with Molotov cocktails, who are writing Black Lives Matter on things were white. The majority of the individuals who are looting and bombing and setting things on fire are white. The small percentage of one or two black people walking in and taking a pillow is not even worth talking about. Number three, it's interesting, even with the violence, that the provocateurs who are white are doing just to make it seem like it's Black Lives Matter.
So do you think George?
Interesting, let me finish the last point. Interesting that people care more about building, more about cars, more about clothes than black bodies being murdered. That's the problem.
All right. Well, Lisa, very good points. And let me ask you this: do you think that when you keep pointing out that you think white people are the majority of them, do you think George Soros is behind some of the movement of the? And I do see a number of white people in these protests. Do you think George Soros is behind this and trying to push the anarchy and division in our society?
I mean, it could be a whole host of white supremacists on groundswell to try to make it seem like it's Black Lives Matter, because just like there are not all bad white people, if black people thought all white people was Dylan Roof shooting up churches, we would never interact with white people. If black people thought all cops were bad, we would never call the cops when we do. If black people thought all white people were rapists in Catholic churches, because a lot of those Catholic priests are raping boys, we don't think all Catholics are rapists. We think those particular individuals are rapists. So don't sweep black people with one brush. We're not a monolith.
Understood.
Let us be individuals.
Okay.
If an individual does something, it's the individual.
Let's talk about the debate to defund the police. Tisha, crimes and shootings are up in a number of inner cities, and the debate rages on that they want to take money away from police. Shouldn't we be trying to figure out how to deploy the money more smartly so that we can educate cops and do some better community policing?
Absolutely, John. There's nothing good that's going to come from us defunking the police. We need the police to protect us. I don't care if you're black or white. You need police to just keep the peace. The crime rate has gone up because people are no longer afraid of police. And I want to point back to what Lisa said, that buildings don't matter. People work in buildings. It costs a lot of money. If you burn a building down, it's going to be insurance money.
I never said buildings don't matter. I said, why would buildings matter more than bodies? I didn't say buildings don't matter. They absolutely matter. I'm a homeowner. Buildings matter. So don't misquote me, girl.
We definitely need to stop burning down buildings because it really does matter.
Who's we? The white people? Who are we? The white people? Because we're not doing it. The white girl got busted burning down Target. The white girl got busted with a Molotov cocktail burning down the car. Who are we? Were you there? You burning down buildings, girl? Tisha, you burning down buildings, girl?
Well, I watched I watched a video yesterday of a number of people, including a number of African-American young men who were smashing in the windows and lighting the inside of a cop car on fire
burning down
in
buildings.
Baltimore.
I did say in my speech that there is a small percentage of regular people doing things. You're going to have that. But she said we're burning down buildings. Not one black person was seen burning down a building. That was white girls and white boys tearing stuff up and burning down buildings.
Okay.
Not us, Tisha.
Our last point here. It seems like people are boycotting Facebook. There's a lot of censorship going on of conservatism. Pro-Trump content is being blocked off social media. Is this for our own good, Tisha, or should we do something about it?
I guess Tisha couldn't handle the heat, but I can answer that question. She so-called froze. I guess she had to go.
Oh, she froze. She froze. Okay.
Yeah, I bet she froze. Let me just answer that question. Listen, I'm the free speech girl. I'm the person that believes in free speech in all ways. I believe in the Second Amendment to right to bear arms. I believe in free speech, even though some of the idiots have hate speech. But I do not believe in an organization like Facebook allowing ads. That's different. Ads manipulating video to look like something it's not. That's a problem. So there is some kind of, plus Facebook has rules. When you get on Facebook, they say, do you agree with these rules? So when you say you agree with these rules about the community rules and you don't abide by them, they should be able to say, we're cutting you off, we're putting you in Facebook jail or whatever the punishment is. So yes, I agree with that when you're going on the wrong side of their rules. Don't y'all white folks like rules? Y'all love rules, but you don't want it to be applied to you. And I don't mean all white folks. Those white folks who feel like they shouldn't be doing this to Donald Trump. Y'all like rules, but when it's you want to cry like a baby. No, we ain't doing that.
All right, Lisa, I really appreciate you coming on. As you know,
I can meet her back here again.
Listen,
Tisha was very rude.
It's my show. It's my show. And although we have differing points of view, I like to make it a forum where we can have good conversations. So I really appreciate your energy.
And John, you've been very pleasant, and I really appreciate it. But it's hard when just wanted to say real quickly. It's very hard when people who are liberal get invited on shows, which I appreciate.
And I'm trying to make it an open forum. You know what I mean?
You did great. But when you have people on there, I waited patiently, and then then it turns into angry black women.
All right, we gotta leave.
So
no, I don't want you to be that. I'm trying to give you a good forum, and you're a cool chick in my book. I'm gonna take a quick break. We're gonna come back after this.
I appreciate it. See you next time.
For more Liquid Lunch, head over to YouTube, do a search for Liquid Lunch TV, and hit that subscribe button.
Okie dokie, how are you there? And welcome to this terrific Tuesday edition of Liquid Lunch. Quick break there. Wow. I mean, I try to mix it up with the best of them. And we've had Tisha on many times against many people. And we've had Lisa Durden on twice, and she has exploded 2 times. She's kind of good television, but and I'm cracking open a cold one here. I'm with Amal. One of our viewers, Amal, sent me a note that was intense and she needs a drink. I'm with her. I'm having one. I'm sucking down these White Claws like it's my job lately, I got to tell you. But your portfolio's in good hands today. Nothing great to report there. And Bitcoin continues to linger around in a range. Many of you have told me that you like when I do these segments on my own and talk to you about stuff that's going on out there. I am talking to my audience now, and coming up in just a little bit, one of the biggest Trump supporters out there, one of the biggest people on social media that's always out there spreading the good word. They call her Fog City Midge. Margaret Vandenberg, a.k.a. Fog City Midge, is going to join us in just a bit. She's out in San Francisco. Let me tell you, it's tough to be out in Pelosi town and wear a MAGA hat, but Midge does it all the time. And, she's quite the guest. And she actually was guest host with me at one point, but Midge went back to the left coast where I guess she's more comfortable, but I've been begging Nico to get her back on, and she's going to join us in just a few here. Now, what do you need to know? Your portfolio's okay, and Bitcoin is okay, and we are not okay because, as Pavlina Osta pointed out at the end of hour 1 there, we had so much going on up here in New York. It was the most hard-hit state in the country with this coronavirus stuff, that many people here weren't paying attention to. Texas wasn't doing much, and Florida wasn't doing much, and the comparisons were great. And now everyone's saying, oh, Texas is up and Florida's up and Arizona's up. The main thing I want you to keep your eye on, because we're doing so much more testing now. The one thing you got to realize is that the survival rate continues to be 99.95. So that's like 5 basis points. That's like 0.05%. It's the smallest margin. And by the way, survival is really all that matters here. I mean, are people being hospitalized? I don't know. Hospitalizations don't seem to be ripping out of control. we heard all this talk here in New York and other, we're going to need 50,000 ventilators, blah, 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 hospital beds. And Donald Trump sent, one Navy ship here to New York. He sent another one to Cali. And the one in New York had like 1,000 beds. And not a single person ever boarded the bed. We had so many respirators, it turned out, that Governor Cuomo started shipping them to other states. So keep your eye on the ball. And, I'm trying to be objective and not be too much of a conspiracy theorist, although I am a conspiracy theorist. This thing started and it was bad, okay? And if you go look at the chart, I showed you the chart last week, it shot up, and now it's been cascading its way down. And left-wing media will tell you that it's shooting up again. The only chart that matters is COVID deaths. If you ask me, that's the only chart that matters. Now, I'll give you an example. I have 3 kids, okay? 2 of them back in February, March, both John and Tori had, some mild symptoms. Tori went and got tested. John had a fever. He was in bed, fever, bed, fever, bed. I was convinced they both had it. Ava, my other daughter, didn't demonstrate any symptoms. Turns out that Ava has the antigens, and the other 2 that we thought might have had corona don't have anything. So all this testing stuff is still kind of harem-scarum. There's not a lot of hard evidence out there. And I started this whole corona thing back in February when we were back in the studio. And I have kept myself on a strict regimen of having at least 1 Corona beer today, and every day. And my thought was, much like an apple a day keeps the teacher away, a Corona a day keeps the virus away. And I even had on famed Dr. Eric Braverman, who agreed with me that drinking a Corona a day could be a preventive measure not to get the coronavirus. So as of today, knock on wood, I haven't got it yet. Nico, he did agree with me, right? Dr. Braverman, that drinking Corona would prevent the coronavirus. He didn't agree with me at all. I got him to agree that if I drink Corona enough, then I would sleep better. And if you sleep better, it contributes to, a more healthy body and immune system. So maybe there is some capacity in an actual Corona beer, but I've transitioned from Corona to White Claw. This is my daily drink right now, and then I go to the gin and tonics after the show when I want to start slurring. But lots of crazy crap going on out there, folks, and every day right here on Liquid Lunch, we're just trying to bring you real people and talk about real things. And as Nico mentioned in the break, we are thinking about getting off of Facebook, and we've joined Parler, P-A-R-L-E-R. It's a pretty open forum, and you might want to check it out and follow Liquid Lunch. We're going to take a quick break, come back with Fog City Midge right after this.
Most financially successful people own assets that make them money while they sleep. They usually own real estate, vehicles, intellectual property, equipment, and more. These assets make passive income through leases, subscriptions, royalties, and fees that don't require time, energy, or attention. Your assets do the work, and you collect the check. So what kind of asset should you buy? The most valuable companies in the world, like Amazon, Google, and Apple, all have the same thing in common. They make a majority of their revenue from data technology assets, storing, collecting, processing, and providing data. It's all about the data. What if you could own data tech assets with a low upfront cost? Introducing Apex, a proprietary technology built to process and mine data and render artificial intelligence and 3D gaming at exceptionally high rates. Apex Tech has partnered with SafeTech, a subsidiary of a publicly traded company called InvestView. SafeTech's business model leverages Apex technology to disrupt the multi-trillion-dollar data tech industry, giving you the competitive advantage. SafeTech's growth strategy is to capture a significant share of the market. SafeTech will enter into a 60-month lease with owners of Apex Systems. Why would they do that? Why not just buy all the equipment themselves? The same reason most companies lease instead of own, to scale quickly without the upfront costs and for the tax benefits. So how do you get started? You purchase an Apex system. Then you can lease it to SafeTech for 60 months at a rate of $500 per month. That's a total of $30,000 paid to you over the life of the lease. So what's your responsibility besides purchasing the Apex system? Nothing. During the lease, SafeTech is responsible for any maintenance costs to keep things running for you. Just collect a check every month for the next 60 months. This tremendous financial opportunity positions you to follow the strategies of the financially successful. You can leverage data technology to produce passive income that generates revenue without your time, energy, or effort. This is what is meant by creating multiple streams of income. But the opportunity to participate will not last forever. If this concept fits your financial goals, take action today while you still have the chance.
I mentioned it a little earlier before, but for the last couple of months now, I've been experiencing a lot of difficulties with Facebook. They won't let us boost up posts. They won't let us advertise. They give us some fake thing that I don't know if you could. Where is it? Yeah. This is they're saying that you see that this is why they rejected us with tobacco and related products. So they're saying that because my name is John Tobacco, I'm advocating for tobacco-related products, which I'm not, and I never do. Although I do smoke cigarettes every so often on the breaks, but it's not something that we do during the show. But because Facebook, the other day our audio was cutting in and out, and people were telling me what's wrong with the audio. Facebook has decided that they're the new thought police, and the thought police decide whose content gets out there, what content the algorithms smash, and it also decides what content can't even get on air because they want to limit political debate and political thought. There's this new site called Parler, 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 okay? And Parler is a social media platform where they don't judge you. They don't try to call balls and strikes on opinion. They don't try to ban people for expressing themselves. And they're not asking only right-wing Trump supporters to try out Parler. They want everyone to try out Parler, and they're going to allow both points of view to be heard. So far, many on the right, I joined yesterday. Liquid Lunch joined, Liquid Lunch joined 14 or 15 hours ago. I think we have, what do we have, Jess? 200 followers in not even a day. So I'd encourage you to go check it out. It's really not that hard. I set it up in like 5 minutes. I did my own page, Jess did the Liquid Lunch page. But I have a feeling Parler is going to be a big part of the political debate over the next couple of months, because me personally, if I could figure out how to stream this thing on Parler, then I may leave Facebook too. And there's all this noise going around. Hundreds of companies now are saying that they're not going to advertise on Facebook anymore because Facebook is allowing hate speech and divisive comments and all this other stuff. I'd be worried if I was Facebook, because both Facebook and Instagram, although you think they're free because they don't send you a bill every month, they suck every piece of data they can get out of you. They suck it like, the marrow out of a bone. I don't know if you ever had this famous Italian meal called osso buco, where you have like this big round bone in the middle of the meat, and there's like marrow in there. And the real old Ginzaloons, they, like slurp every last bit of marrow out of the bone. Facebook and Instagram suck the marrow out of your data, and anything they can capture out of you. If you notice, like if you're like talking in a conversation and you say, "Hey, I'm thinking about going to Bermuda." 2 seconds later, every ad that pops up in your phone is about flights to Bermuda and hotels in Bermuda. So Big Brother's watching on Facebook. That's why you think it's free, but it's not. They steal your data, they sell that, and then they rely on critical mass advertisements from big companies because they have so much data on you. They can say, all right, well, we know Jess likes to go to Ulta and get the special hair waffle iron to straighten her hair. And then, they'll market you other products that are
similar to, maybe, they heard you say that you want to straighten your hair today, and then they sell you then they send you ads for conditioner and moisturizer, purifier, and what's the other one? Because I put so much I put so much stuff on my hair, like Rhino Shield, shellac, spray paint, anything I can to try to make it look full. And then my person who does my hair, he said you got to get the purifier, or like when you clean it, like it doesn't get the glue clarifier. It doesn't get the glue out of my hair. I got to get the clarifier. But anyhow, Facebook and Instagram rely on your data and reselling it, and then reselling it to advertisers because they put together what your habits are. And don't forget, I worked for Overstock.com in many different capacities for almost 15 years. So I know a lot about what they do. And, they do a lot of trend analysis now with this artificial intelligence. And if they see, this woman was searching for books on how to get pregnant. And then all of a sudden she starts to search for pregnancy tests. And then the next thing she starts searching for children's furniture. Then they say, okay, she figured out how to get pregnant. She got the pregnancy test. Now she's buying furniture. She must be about to go to a new phase in her life. And then they may want to start marketing life insurance to you because now you are changing to a new phase. They call them life-changing events. And baby equals life insurance. Baby equals home. Baby equals maybe more furniture. And just to give you a little sample of how deeply these companies look into your data, that's what happens. And Facebook and Instagram are some of the best at it. But I think people are onto their gig now. And if you could, do me a solid. Check out Parler. If you could, follow us, Liquid Lunch, on Liquid Lunch TV on Parler. And you know what? We're at like 920 followers on YouTube. I'd love to get over 1,000. If you could, check it out. But no matter what, tune in again tomorrow. Same bad time, same bad channel. More Liquid Lunch.